So now we have Marija Boyer with me from the Netherlands, and she and I have also been on the same international team as my other video team members. And Marija has been a very fast adapter of technology and virtual meetings. So I'm going to pass it over to you and tell us what you've been learning about virtual meetings. What are some great ideas? And if you want to screen share, that'd be fine too. It would be fun to see anything that you've been exploring.
Yeah, thanks, Barb, and thanks for this invitation, of course. And I think that the steep learning curve is just about thinking. We are used to do things in a face-to-face session, and our first way how we're doing virtual is to copy it one-to-one. What we did in face-to-face, we copied one-to-one to virtual session, and that's not working. So the puzzle we have to think about is, what do we have to change when we copy our face-to-face session to our online or virtual sessions, and what do we have to do differently? And I think that puzzle, with all the other possibilities around we can use in the virtual sessions, that's the most interesting. But we can, because we can use much more in a virtual session, which we don't use in a face-to-face session.
Oh, why don't you give us some ideas about that?
Yeah, it's our of course, and in the Netherlands, I heard a lot that the meetings are too efficient, because we directly deep dive into the content, and we directly deep dive to the agenda. But I always say, people don't do business with the agenda. People don't do business with certain subjects or decisions or content. People do business with content. People do business with people. So. The first is, don't forget the interaction we also need to do. Looking to the virtual session, we can use so much other tools and other way of working, and working in little breakout rooms, and doing on digital tools to have our conversation, also have our conversation focused. But don't forget the interaction we also need between all the participants and the facilitator and the participants, of course.
How do you do that?
I think different ways of working. Last week I did also a training on clean language. And I think that was also an eye-opener, because saying that questions for which is used in clean language also gives a lot of deepening of your conversations. And with doing virtual, one of the mistakes you can make is to only look at your Miro board or your Jamboard, and only making sticky notes, and working in a Miro board or in a digital board, and only make a configuration of your old sticky notes, but don't have the but then we don't have the interaction and the discussion about what's on that board. So using good questions to really to ask, what are the reasons why you put some, not what are the reasons, what do you mean with what you put on the Miro board, or what do you mean with certain words? It's so important to do that, because then you are going deeper and not only making a sticky note in it, putting it on the Jamboard and the Miro board.
Right. And I think, tell me, so I'm just getting a little bit of an echo, but in a face-to-face setting, we might say that we would put something up on a sticky note, and we would say, sometimes people are not good at etiquette. Facilitator etiquette is like just grouping the ideas and not discussing them at all. But if we're really paying attention, we might say, you know, what isn't clear here? What do you mean by that? Why is this like this idea? So you're basically saying, don't forget to do that in the virtual environment as well. Stop, look at what you're writing, really understand each other.
Yeah, and sometimes we forget what we do in the face-to-face session, and we don't do that anymore in the virtual session. Exactly what you are describing now.
Yeah.
Don't forget what you already know. That's also one of my quotes. Don't forget what you already know, because people are thinking, oh, and now we are doing the virtual, we have to do it totally different. No, we still have to think about the purpose. We still have to think about our aims. We still have to think about our participants, and we still have to think how we make connections.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Mariah, one of the things that I've been struggling with is just to have the ability to take on all of these different tools. I mean, the other day I learned about Padlet, the spatial chat, all the Google drawings, the annotate feature in Zoom. Those are just a few. Obviously, there's tons of things you can do with Mural. But how do you decide Mentimeter? It goes on and on and on. And I'm thinking, like, where do I even, like, how do I download these on my computer, and when do I use them? And like, how do you make that decision, since you've used a lot of different techniques? Like,
Yeah, I use them all. I use them a lot, but I don't use more than 1 or 2 tools in one session, because you don't want to make your participants crazy. But and I also think about how to downgrade my tool. What if my participants cannot use this tool? What can I do differently? And I choose my tool on different levels. For instance, when I have to decide for myself, then I think I only use Miro because I love the Miro board. But there are a lot of people who found Miro very difficult. There are a lot of people who are lost in a Miro board. So I have always several layers. What if people are lost in the Miro? What can they do in another way? Or what if people are found Miro? They cannot go to the Miro board because security reasons or something else. What can they do in another way? So I make different differentiations for my participants, how they can participate in a digital tool. And for the most experienced participants, they can go in the Miro board and they can do their job and they can help also another participant. But I always think about what, when I have a less digital experienced participant, what can I do for this person? So what I don't want is that somebody feel lost and is not thinking from, oh, this is not my session. I quit.
Right. Yeah, it's like in our face-to-face meetings when we had people that just, they didn't know what the context of the subject was, and therefore they're not going to participate because they really don't have enough background to participate fully. And the same thing happens with technology, of course. They may actually not be having the context, but then they also don't have the ability to navigate within the content that is being shared, and so that makes it a disadvantage for them.
Yeah, and when you're for instance, in a face-to-face, and you have to do that also virtual, you have more extrovert and you have more introvert participants. You have people who directly have their opinion, and people who have to think about their opinion. And in a face-to-face session, you also make your program like that you have possibilities to hear all the different sort of participants. And I think an extra level in going virtual is your difference in digital skills of your participants. So think also about that, how to make it also for all the participants enjoyable.
And how would you engage introverts differently in the virtual environment?
One of the things I did for one of the last sessions is, and I learned it also from another facilitator, or I experienced it with another facilitator, is to bring all the participants for themselves in their own breakout room. And that was so lovely because when you're working for yourself in a plenary room, you're still a little bit distracted. You're still watching, what are the other participants doing? Do they have the video on, or who did the video off? And maybe somebody didn't mute himself or herself. So there's still some distraction. And when you bring all the participants in their own breakout room, and you give them a reflection question or a question they have to answer, or make up their mind. For instance, make a one-liner about question X, Y, Z, make a one-liner for this question, and you bring them in their own breakout room. It's very quiet, and people love it because they really love to be for have their own time, and they say, "Oh, this was nice. It was so quiet."
So right. So you basically just put a few people in a breakout room with a phrase or a question.
No, one people in one breakout room.
Oh, one person in one breakout room.
Yeah, you have your
own breakout room. And they do
room.
their own intrapersonal reflection on the question.
and they're not disturbed. They only have their own
Oh,
thoughts.
yeah.
And then also the introverts have their own time to make up their
Mhm.
mind. Also, the extroverts cannot overrule all the participants because they are alone in their own. They're also alone in their own breakout room.
Right.
And when they make their own one-liner, then afterwards they come back and then you can share it, their one-liner.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So much to explore, but I know that people don't like to watch videos too long, but is there anything you could screen share that is something new that you've been doing that you really love or has helped create better social connection or more humanness in the meetings? And don't want to put you on the spot, but
Everything, to be honest. Everything I share will be in client name, so that's not
okay,
very.
okay. So not a good idea.
No, but I've one tip. When you use a lot of Miro, there's also the Miroverse, and Miroverse has also a lot of inspiration of other templates.
And how do you spell that?
Miro, like Miro, and
Yeah,
then
Miro.
and then Verse.
Miroverse. Okay.
Yeah. And there are a lot of templates of other participants. So, for instance, and it's a very nice one, there is one exercise, how to build your own avatar. So
Avatar.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So there is one template with a lot of hair, a lot of faces, a lot of glasses, and a lot of other stuff. You can make your own avatar, so you can make your own person, and that's very nice. For instance, also when you're thinking about the journey, a customer journey, so make your own client or make your own self, so you can explore. So there are also a lot of inspiration on that, and I also have my own boards, but they're also all client names on it. So
Oh yeah. No, that's no problem. That's great. So if we were to sum up what I've heard you say, the first is to remember that that you don't want to translate what you did face to face exactly into the online environment. Number two, can you remember something else?
yeah, don't forget the interaction and the
Yeah,
exploration.
yeah,
Not everything is about your digital tools. Don't forget to have a talk, have a discussion,
right.
and use your good questions for it.
Use good questions, explore what people mean by their words. Also remember that the basic things that we need in a face-to-face, we need to be clear on our aims. We need to give people time to think on their own, like you did, having one person going to breakout rooms. And anything else that you would say as a last word of advice to those who are really missing the social connection in meetings, in virtual meetings?
Yeah, really make time in your agenda for your social connections.
Mm,
When a meeting is, for instance, 90 minutes, just take 10 minutes for your technical transitions. Take 10 minutes also for your pause and your breaks, but also take 10 minutes for pure your social connection, like a check-in, a like check-out, like a ritual, what you're doing every start in the session. A check-in is, of course, a sort of rituals, but you can also play some music or do something else. Don't go directly to the content and to the decisions and to deep dive.
mm, yeah,
Make space for each other and see each other.
yeah. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you, Mariah. You have kept me learning, and I keep, taking different webinars and stuff like that to learn more. But it's great to hear your advice since you've been doing it pretty much nonstop for the last 4 or 5, 6 months.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Barb.